that I'm incapable of preaching an abbreviated service. I'm here to prove that not to be the case. If you knew how badly my vocal cords were hurting at the present time, you would wonder why I'm here at all. But I'm going to prove Doug Parrish wrong if it's the last thing I do. In your songbooks on page number 32, there's a profound and really thought-provoking question that's raised. How shall the young secure their hearts and guard their lives from sin? Thy word, this is the answer, of course. Thy word, the choicest rules imparts to keep the conscience clean. This, of course, is taken from the 119th Psalm, where David said, I have hid your word in my heart that I might not sin against you. When I look around this congregation, I see the number of empty seats. A lot of them are empty because parents and grandparents are in another room trying to calm down some of these young people who are suffering from sleep deprivation, like most of you who are still in here. But they're, of course, struggling because of their age. They don't understand sometimes why we're still here and while we're singing these songs and while we're going through these activities. So we're waiting for them to grow up and understand what's taking place. But we're happy to be patient with them because we recognize that with these babies, we have been blessed immensely by God. We are truly blessed at Villa Rica. I go to a lot of places. I visit a lot of congregations. I don't know anywhere I have been that has this many babies and little ones, at least proportionally. I just don't see it anywhere. I'm not sure what to make of that, if there's something to the water here in Carroll County, or if there's some other explanation. I don't really care, other than to give God the praise and the glory and the credit. Brother Waddell often says in regard to this observation, it proves that God hasn't given up on us yet. Amen. But have we given up on our children? When word from the battle that, of course, was taking place during the reign of King David, he had been dethroned by his own son. Some might conclude that because his son had led such an outrageous rebellion, that David would be angry enough to want vengeance against a rebellious son like this. But David was a man after God's own heart, and he loved Absalom still. And so when word started trickling back about the outcome of the battle between David's men and those of his son, David's cry over and over again is the young man safe? As we think about our own youth, we need to ask, brethren, are our children safe? And I'm asking that question in light of the fact we are presently engaged in a serious battle, a serious struggle for the hearts and minds of our children. And there are sinister, yes, evil forces that are seeking to steal their hearts and minds, not just away from us, but more particularly away from God, their Creator. It begins in public school. It begins in kindergarten with the teaching of Darwinian evolution, telling our children there is no God. They are the products of biological evolution. This is an outrageous, ridiculous fairy tale under the guise of so-called science, and it needs to be exposed for the fairy tale that it is. But in the meantime, parents, Bible class teachers, we need to be aware of the battle that is raging in our public schools and, yes, on television sitcoms and in magazines and in our neighborhoods and with their friends. And we need to be talking regularly with our children about world views and the fact that we have been specially created by God. And one day we will give an account of our lives before this great and loving Creator. Our children need no less from us As a congregation, we do everything we can to provide for the needs of our young people. We have an outrageously good Bible department, in my opinion. We have classes for all ages. And it's just a joy to see these young people going to class. And sometimes I have the privilege of taking my grandchildren to class and see those classrooms filled with small minds ready to be taught about God, their Creator. And some of the first words still are Jesus, the Bible, and God. And these are wonderful things that we're teaching our young people. In a few weeks, we will be hosting the annual Bible Bowl here. It's a Bible Bowl. It's sort of a competition, all in good fun, of course, but all again to encourage our children to put their nose to the grindstone and open their Bibles and study and read and know the Word of God. How shall the young secure their hearts? In just a few moments, our deacons are going to be presenting some of the awards to some of our young people who participated in Lads to Leaders this year. Brother Roy Johnson came and spoke in a class for Georgia School of Preaching last quarter. He shared some really remarkable statistics with the class about those young people in churches of Christ, in fact, all across the board, but particularly in churches of Christ, that we retain. And it's amazing, those who participate in Lads to Leaders have about a 90% retention rate. Those who do not participate in such activities, it's more like 10 to 15%. We are losing our young people at an alarming rate. And as a congregation, I, for one, am thankful that we have those who are willing to work with, tirelessly work with our young people, particularly in Lads to Leaders, to provide this kind of environment for them to grow and develop their talent and to be ready to serve the Lord in the future days. And we often say our young people are the future of the church. Well, I submit to you, many of them that we call young people already are the church and are actively participating in it. And we commend them for their good work that they provide this congregation. And we certainly want to encourage them every way we possibly can. We're going to continue to do what we can. We have Camp in Agahey coming up in June, a wonderful opportunity for our young people. In fact, there are a lot of people that go to camp that aren't members of the church, but they go to camp. They're exposed to some of our young people, and you'll be amazed at the seeds that are planted there and how it can come to fruition in time to come. Hopefully, prayerfully, we'll see more of that in the coming days. This is a good thing. But as I was suggesting in the bulletin article this week, as a congregation, we can do all of these and then some. But if as parents and grandparents, we're not shouldering the responsibility to raise up our children in the nurture and admonition of the Lord, many of them don't really have a fighting chance. Yes, it's true. We are all free moral agents. And yes, we all have to make up our own mind. But as parents, we have a serious responsibility laid on our shoulders. Matthew 18, Jesus was trying to calm down his disciples because they were arguing about who's the greatest among them. He took a little child, put them in their midst, said, "Unless you become like one of these little children, you'll no wise enter the kingdom of heaven." And then Jesus said something really remarkable. "Whoever causes one of these little ones, which believe in me, to stumble, it would be better for him that a millstone hung about his neck, he were cast into the sea and drowned." An awful, awful fate awaits those. Parents, grandparents, Bible class teachers, preachers, elders, deacons, others, whoever we might have, who might have influence over our children. We need to be very, very careful. Because at the end of the day, it's more about the example we set in front of our young people than it is the words that come out of our mouths. We're so thankful for our children. So thankful for Joe and Amy, for Chris and Deanna, and all of those who work tirelessly with them. And of course, all of the parents who work so hard and do such a great job encouraging their children. We're so thankful for the good work that you do, and we commend you for that good work. And we're about to have a presentation. And we want to take the time. We want to ask you, urge you, to stay when our dismissal prayer is completed and watch and pay attention to these young people, see some of the amazing things that they have done. But before we get to that point, we want to offer the invitation again. Maybe some present this afternoon who need and desire the prayers of the church, need to respond to heaven's invitation. If we can assist you in any way, please make that need known right now while together we stand and as we sing.